My name is Rick, and I'm 31 years old. At this age, for some people, it marks the start of a flourishing career and a happy family life. For me, it's more like a cold, remorseless scoreboard hung over the ruins of my life, tallying a game I already lost. 10 years, just 10 years, and I felt like I'd boarded a runaway roller coaster engine, plummeting from the clouds down into an abyss. My story begins when I was 21. At that time, I dropped out of university and worked as a sales associate in an electronics store. I was articulate and performed well in sales, but deep down I wasn't cut out to live on a fixed salary in complacency. I observed constantly, searching for that breakout moment that could catapult me to success. I soon found it: high-end replica watches. It happened by chance. On an online forum, I saw a discussion about a replica Rolex Submariner whose details were so precise that laypersons couldn't tell it apart from the real thing. I recognized a massive gray market opportunity. Countless young people like me craved the halo of luxury goods, but couldn't afford the price. I saw it as fulfilling market demand, not deception. Over the next few months, I immersed myself in that secret world. I studied cloned ETA movements, learned to distinguish factory tiers like N factory, V6 factory, and even discovered tweaking methods to enhance the watch's feel. I fashioned myself into an expert. Then I built a highly professional-looking website, using high-res images and copy lifted from genuine brand sites alongside my own staged videos that looked indistinguishable from the real product. I ran Instagram ads and executed viral marketing on relevant Reddit subforums, and soon the orders poured in. I remember my first big sale vividly. A customer from California ordered 5 different replica models at once, totaling over $3,000. When the money hit my PayPal account, my heart pounded like a drum. That wasn't just cash. It was proof that I, Rick, had discovered a path to success outside the rules. My business spread like a virus. I had customers all over the US, college students, entry-level white collars, even entrepreneurs with modest means who wanted to collect watches at low cost. My margins were absurdly high. Every month, seeing $80,000, $90,000, even $100,000 added to my bank balance made me feel like the king of the world. In under 2 years, after expenses, I netted over $1 million. I moved from a shared apartment into a luxury downtown condo, bought a Porsche 911, and my wardrobe brimmed with designer labels. But a business that skirts legality is doomed to collapse. Reports came raining in, my website was shut down repeatedly. Worse, lawyers from luxury brands started sending cease and desist letters. I knew I'd reached the end of the line. I wasn't afraid. I was supremely confident, borderline arrogant. I told myself, this is just my first bucket of gold. My plan was to use the money to launch a legitimate streetwear watch brand, register a trademark, hire a proper factory, and build a brand story about an ordinary person who turned his life around through grit. How ironic. Yet ambition doesn't wait. When your bank balance hits 7 figures, the world treats you differently. Friends started calling me Boss Rick, and club acquaintances dubbed me the boss. I drank up the adulation, and the hunger to build something real was slowly drowned out by alcohol and hormones. I began frequenting upscale clubs in Miami and Las Vegas, indulging in reckless spending. Young, beautiful women surrounded me, their worshipful gazes rewarding my vanity more than any business success ever could. I abandoned real work and lived a life of drunken luxury and hedonism. By 2017, after burning through part of my fortune, I had about $700,000 left. That's when my cousin Tom, who owned a gas station in Texas, reached out. He'd found land near a college town to build a motel, but was $300,000 short. Still sharp in business vision, I flew to Texas to scope the location. It was just 2 miles from a major state university, near fast food joints but lacked any decent lodging. Potential customers were endless: parents, visiting scholars, sports teams. I saw a sure-win deal. I invested $300,000 and, as successful entrepreneur advisor, added what I called a value-add system. QR codes on room TVs to unlock paid-on-demand movies, offer high-end minibar snacks and beverages, plus a 24-hour essentials vending machine selling condoms, power banks, painkillers, even adult items, priced at 3 times cost. The motel thrived, especially during fall semesters and football season. It was packed non-stop. At year-end dividends, I netted $120,000. Tom admired me so much he gave me a bonus $20,000 and made a surprising offer. He wanted to buy back my stake for $300,000 in cash. "Rick," he said over the phone, grateful yet apologetic, "you're a genius. But my whole family depends on this motel. I want to keep it as a pure family business." I understood his unspoken meaning. When a venture proves to be a gold mine, no one wants outsiders involved. Continuing would invite conflict, maybe even manipulation in the books. So I graciously agreed. "No problem, Tom. I was just helping. Now it's stable. I'll move on to my next challenge. I took the return of my $300,000 and the $14,000 profit, exited with swagger. I felt like an investment godfather, turning lead into gold, leaving without a trace. I didn't realize at the time that this was the beginning of my downfall. In 2019, everything changed. A friend named Mark, a stock trader I met through shared interest in cars, invited me to a chic cafe. We chatted sports cars and markets. He was fiddling with his phone, engrossed. "What are you looking at so intently?" I asked. On his screen was a slick interface. A glamorous Asian dealer in red gown dealt cards while player and banker bet areas glowed, with red-blue bead roadmaps, online Baccarat. "Just passing time," he said, placing a bet. Skeptically, I said, "You can ever make money from this?" Baccarat to me looked like slots, pure chance. He shrugged and bet again. I found the instant gratification addictive. I told Mark, "Let's do $1,000 on banker. If I win, send me the money. If not, I'll Venmo you." Mark agreed. Seconds later, banker lost. Again. I was pissed. Sent another $1,000. Lost again, $2,000 gone in under a minute. I was furious, not about the money, but the feeling of losing control. I prided myself on succeeding at everything. I couldn't let a casino game beat me. "Listen," I said, "place $3,000. If I lose, I'll fold and call it $5,000 total. I'll admit I lost." Mark placed the bet. I watched the dealer deal. Player hit 9, banker had 6 but drew a 3 to tie. I thought I'd lost, but it was a push, and I got my stake back. Again, just that bet amount. I yelled. This time, banker won. Mark showed me the profit, almost $3,000 in net gain after refunding my principal. Seeing that show up in my bank, a rush of raw exhilaration hit me, stronger than doing business. That night in my empty condo, I couldn't sleep. I logged into the gambling website Mark gave me. It looked professional and licensed. With no hesitation, I deposited $2,000 via credit card. I told myself I'd just play for fun. Miraculously, I won almost every round. In under an hour, my balance jumped from $2,000 to $5,000. I withdrew $3,000, watched that deposit notification with a sense of control I'd never felt before. Lying in bed, high on adrenaline, I began calculating. If I could reliably win $2,000 per night for a few hours, that's $50K, $60K a month, $600K, $700K a year, much faster and easier than making high-end replicas or investing in motels. I fantasized, win $10 million, buy a Pagani Huayra, fund a highway back home in my name, real legacy. But fantasy is poison sweet, reality is the harsh wake-up. The losses began fast. I discovered the so-called roadmaps and patterns were bullshit. When I thought I'd spotted a streak and bet heavily, it broke. When I tried reversing on a streak, it sometimes continued endlessly. The swings were extreme. Banker hits 9 after drawing, thrilling me. Next round, same scenario, it busts on the third card. Felt like the casino was playing me. My emotions became tied to those screens. Winning felt omnipotent, losing made me irritable and violent. I smashed my phone into a wall more than once. Over 6 months, I lost nearly every dime of that $700,000 I had left. Sold the Porsche, moved out of the condo into a modest rental. One Christmas Eve, I had only a few $1,000s left. In a moment of delirium, I asked my parents for help. I lied that I needed funds for a business project that was temporarily cash-strapped. My kind, simple parents gave me $10,000 without suspicion, thinking they were supporting their son's venture, unaware it was pouring into a bottomless pit. I vowed to myself, this is the last time. I'll play just until I recover part of it, or I'll completely stop. But during that Christmas week, something strange happened. I seemed touched by luck. I won on every bet, regardless of method or intuition. In a week, that $10,000 ballooned to $350,000, and the site awarded me rebate bonuses worth tens of thousands for high turnover. I was swept away by euphoria. I'd found the gambling holy grail, cracked the system. I was the chosen one. If I'd walked away with that money, maybe I could have regained control. But an addict can't break when winning, they only floor it. Of course, I lost it all. The $400,000 plus sat in my bank for less than a month before I sent it all back to the casino's coffers. This time, I was wiped. With nothing left, I turned to borrowing. I began exploring quick online loan apps promising rapid funding and no collateral. I believed I was just unlucky, that with enough capital I could flip it all back. I imagined scripts for turning borrowed money into winnings, then paying off debts and soaring to the next peak. But it became a terrifying loop. Occasionally the casino would allow a win, giving me a glimmer of hope. Then a brutal loss would sweep away that plus more. I lost touch with sanity, often in the dead of night, penniless, searing my palm with a lit cigarette to dull inner pain. I knelt on a cold floor, praying to my late grandmother's portrait, begging to win. But gods don't save gamblers. By 2020, I had accumulated about $350,000 in various online loans. My days were no longer powered by dreams, but by relentless debt collector calls and SMS. I collapsed. One night, I called my parents and confessed everything in tears. There was silence on the other end. I could picture my father's face twisted in anger and disappointment, and my mother's silent tears. But ultimately, family won out. They emptied their retirement savings and borrowed from relatives to pay off the $350,000. The day the debt was cleared felt like being rescued from drowning. A weight lifted off my chest. I could breathe again. I swore to my parents I would never gamble again. That sense of liberation and rebirth was real. But it only lasted a month. When life returned to ordinary, that enormous emptiness reemerged. I tried looking for work, but I couldn't stomach a 9 to 5 making a few thousand a month. My mind replayed bank balances in the millions, how interest alone would out-earn most people's daily wages. Now I had nothing. That gap crushed me mentally. I became irritable, negative, and couldn't enjoy anything. Then, during New Year 2021, a devilish email dragged me back. It was from that gambling platform I'd long deleted. The subject read, "Rick, we miss you. Here's a $388 New Year bonus. Good luck." I told myself I wouldn't deposit anything, just play that free money. Curiously, I did, and struck gold. In hours, that $388 became over $10,000. I withdrew $10,000, then wisely reloaded $3,000, telling myself I'd bet small, play scientifically. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept winning. Another $50,000 trickled in. That rush of winning felt like a high-potency stimulant. It healed all my depression. I was unstoppable, even humming in the bathroom. But in that moment of clarity, I realized a terrifying truth. I was hopelessly addicted. My happiness was entirely defined by gambling's outcomes. Outside it, life was gray. I held that $50,000 in my hand and considered doing something legitimate, rebuilding from scratch. But I found I wasn't the old Rick anymore, once bold and daring. In real business, I felt timid, afraid of risk. Every project seemed full of threats. But on the gambling app, one could bet tens of thousands without hesitation. The outcome was predictable. Between caution and recklessness, I returned to the virtual world that delivered instant thrill. That $50,000 ended up gone too. I sank deeper into madness. I now understand how adept the casinos are at fishing addicts. They understand your psyche intuitively. While you can borrow more, they'll let you in just enough to keep you hooked. And when you're out of reach, that's when they harvest. They know as long as the idea of winning exists, addicts will borrow again. Worst of all, I saw it coming, yet walked into it willingly. To win back that lost $50,000, I borrowed again, every online loan platform I could. But that wasn't enough. In 2022, I finally broke my moral bottom. I used underground channels to fabricate fake property deeds and a believable tech startup business license. Then I launched my lowest scam ever. I used these forged documents to borrow from everyone around me, friends, family, classmates, even childhood pals. You might wonder, wasn't I worried they'd check? They truly didn't suspect because my con was flawless. I told them a Silicon Valley angel had invested millions based on my business acumen and past $1 million year. So nobody doubted. This was Rick rising again, and investing in me meant a future payout. To make it seem real, I ran a Ponzi scheme, promised high monthly returns to early backers, funded by money from new ones. I juggled money, paid A and B from C's funds, paid C from D's, and managed dirty spreadsheets daily, never letting my phone turn off, afraid to miss a call that might prolong the fraud. The scam lasted until 2023. When I'd fooled everyone and could no longer recruit new investors, the bubble burst with a bang. When creditors realized they couldn't reach me and payouts stopped, panic erupted. I did rough math. Principal across credit cards, loans, and personal debts came to around $1 million. With promised interest, total obligations neared $1.2 million. That day my life became hide and lurk. I blocked numbers, deleted social accounts, and disappeared into the city's shadows like a rat denying daylight. Late at night, memories replay like a film in my mind. On one side, luxury days in penthouse suites, Cuban cigars in hand, sipping $100 a pound coffee overlooking the city. On the other, now curled up in a cheap short-term rental, evicted for missing rent, wandering the streets. That gap, so vast, it cuts my soul daily. I'll never forget how it felt. I once carried the scent of money and confidence everywhere. Now I can't even afford a pack of ordinary Marlboros. I've begged strangers for cigarettes, only to be shunned like a plague. More than once I was so desperate I stooped on the street at midnight to pick up a half-burned discarded butt, sucking greedily on it. In that moment, my dignity shattered beyond recognition. After the collapse, I tried to work like a decent person to pay debts. I worked in factories 3 separate times. The first time was on an auto parts assembly line. The factory was hot and loud. I lasted one morning. At lunch I asked the supervisor to buy me a Coke. He eyed me contemptuously and said, "Buy your own." I straight up quit thinking, "Who are you? I once spent your whole monthly salary in a single meal." Second job, warehouse clerk. After a full day my back was aching. I asked the boss for an advance to go treat myself to a good meal. He looked at me like I was a fraud and refused. I never returned the next day. Third, a packaging plant job. I stayed a full month. When I got that first paycheck, about $2,000, I felt like a human again. I went out and ate good food, then I couldn't stop. Opened the gambling app, thinking, I'll win and pay my debt. 2 hours later, that entire paycheck was gone. In that instant, I lost every bit of motivation. To this day I still carry that $1 million debt, and I have no intention of paying. I'm not indifferent or unfeeling. I feel guilt toward those I betrayed. I want to pay back, but I can't. More importantly, my mindset is irreversibly warped. Some of the online lenders will negotiate, repay 30% of principal, and they'll forgive the rest. But my family and friends refuse. They insist I pay full principal. They may forgive interest at most. I argued with several of them. My logic turned shameless. I said, what use is forgiving interest? $1 million in principal I'll never pay in this life. If you won't agree to a 70% reduction like those loan companies, I won't pay a penny because for me, paying or not paying is the same. That's who I've become, an incurable bastard. I turned others' kindness and trust into negotiation chips. $1 million in debt sits heavy on me. Sometimes I wonder, if they'd agree to let me settle for 30%, paying $300,000, maybe my life could see a sliver of light. Maybe I'd work like hell to clear it and start over.